Hello, I'm Taylor Mack, and I am presenting my research that I did on the appropriate usage of technology. Um, I am a worship pastor at New Hope Baptist Church, and I feel like um, nowadays churches and their ministries, they're very involved with technology. They use technology a lot, but I feel like my particular ministry dealing with instrumentation and dealing with media and sound and visual and all that stuff, I feel like I'm a little bit more immersed than some other ministries. So this is something I was kind of I wanted to look into. So that's why I chose this topic, and it was good research. It was a cool paper. Um, I'll just kind of go take you through my research. So what I did when I started my paper, started my research, I started. This was the idea of just talking about how we live in a culture that's not even like, it's not influenced by technology. Like, our culture is technology. Like, wherever you look in our culture, like, it's some sort of technology, it seems. And that you would assume that with this growth in technology that the church would kind of follow this, that they would shift towards being heavily influenced by technology, and they do. So my first part, and then like a big chunk of my paper, was talking about the benefits of technology in church. And I just went through a lot of the things that we pretty much went over in class. Like, let's see here. I went through how a lot of churches have the church management software, and that's what we went over in this class. And that's something that's new to me. I guess to an extent, I didn't know. That's a lot of subjects in this class. I learned a lot about. I just had a very ground level view at it, and I learned a little bit more. But the church management software is what a lot of churches use now. And then this software, you can organize so much. Like, I can see why churches do this. It's so beneficial. You really can organize just about anything for any kind of ministry, or any kind of event, giving, keep up with whatever. Like, it does like pretty much almost everything. Like, it's really, really cool. That's one thing that churches use. See, another thing that I'm looking on my laptop. I have my paper pulled up. So I'm just skimming through. And you have the iCloud, where you can back up all the stuff that is saved on this church management software. You can save that on the hard drive, but also you can save it via internet, which is really cool and very helpful. You don't have to worry about things crashing and losing it forever. It's all there online, and it's really helpful. So I've talked about that a little bit. And when I was talking about the cloud storage, I found this statistic that was done in 2004. So if I assume that this percentage has gone up, but in 2014, it says 78% of churches are using a cloud-based church management system. So this is something that's used very, very widely among our churches, and that was 4 years ago, and I can just imagine that percentage has grown even more. But yeah, I talked about that. I talked about websites, how church websites is so, like, people will go look at these websites to kind of get their first impression before they even visiting a church. I know me personally, this last semester I've sent in a couple of resumes to a few churches, and the very thing I did when I was kind of just praying about it and considering stuff, and I'll go to their website and just kind of see what it looked like, and I knew the website made an impression on me, and I know many of our church members are doing the same thing. So if a church is going after the younger generation, then they need to keep up to date with their website, because like that'll draw them. But if they have if their target is an older generation, and maybe it's not as important, but it's still important. But I talked about that as another example of a technology that the churches use. It's very beneficial. It helps to let the members know what's going on, and keep them up to date with all the events, and new people lets them know what the church is about, so they can kind of just get a look at what a church is before actually getting there and experiencing it personally. So I talked about that. Talked about how technology just allows for a bigger region of impact, whether it's through social media, websites, emails, whatever. Whenever we put stuff out there, it's not just limited to the people that we know. It can be spread much further than that. If we're just handing out flyers, or if we're talking to someone personally, we're limited to that one-on-one communication. But with technology, the cone is just so much wider than it's ever been before. So that's a very big benefit with doing like outreaches and stuff with technology at the forefront. Let's see. I talked about how there is a sense of community with this with technology. How even social media. Social media is a really cool thing. How you can have all these different groups inside ministry, whether it be Bible study or praise team or this and that. You can have little groups where people can talk, and they can share prayer requests and do discussions on what they learned in the lesson, and they can hold each other accountable, which is something that's very important in a Christian's life, is the idea of accountability, and I think the internet can help with that. So I talked about that as a benefit of that, and how you may be able to meet people that you wouldn't necessarily meet before. Let's see. You can stay in contact with people throughout the week, instead of normally we would just see someone from Sunday to Sunday. Occasionally, if we just happen to see them during the week. But now we have group messaging and all this, where we can just talk to a group of people with just a message, like a text message, and we can do that every day, really. And it's really cool, and it can be very helpful in a ministry context. And if you have people who move away, if you have someone who maybe works shift works and works out of state, or someone who's sick and you can't come home, any situation where someone can't be there consistently, junior churches live stream, so they can still feel the sense of connection too. They can still see the service, see the message, and it's really cool that people can still feel connected while situations may arise and they're not able to be as connected as they want to, but they're not completely cut off, if that makes sense. And then my last part of that section, I just went in how technology in the worship band context it's so much. We have worship programs that run lyrics, we have click tracks, we have pads that run behind the music to fill empty spaces, instruments. Even some people get real into it and do lights and do smoke and all that stuff to make an atmosphere of worship. And I have my own thoughts on that, but churches out there do that, and that is a technology. So there's just so many, and that's just some of them I went through. I went through a few more in my paper. But those are things that churches use in their ministries and in the context of their church. That's technology, and all of these are super, super good. They're super effective. They help leaders be more organized. You can be more effective because you're more organized. You can do more in less time, and you can reach more people. There's a list of things of why this is good. But then I got to this part where it's the cons of technology, and the cons is really that when you have all this stuff and all this convenience, so all this technology, it really aims towards the convenience of churches, and that's why churches like all these things, because it's so convenient. Like I just love technology because it's convenient for me. It makes it so easy. But all that can be bad. So where a leader can send out a mass text of information telling all his people what's going on. Well, some of the research in one of these articles I found says that if people are overloaded with information, they'll just clear it or exit it. They won't even like really look at it. They just see that it's there and then they'll clear it. And then so they might not even, you might be sending it, but they might not be receiving it. Where if you have that personal connection, you know they're receiving it. And same thing with Facebook groups is good, but people may send a Facebook message saying, "Hey, I'm thinking about you," and that's a good thing. It really is. But it's even better when if you go to that person's house and you say you bring them a meal or something, and you say, "I've been thinking about you. I just want to let you know I'm here for you," and you're actually physically there for them. Technology helps you do all these things, but none of it, and anything I've found, over trumps the personal connection, and that's what we're tempted with this technology-based society that we live in. And then as we look in our ministries, we can fall into the rut. What else? And then also, I found in my research, and this person in one of my articles brought up, is that because we have all this technology, we now, let me read the very quote. It says, it's harder to focus on sermons or pray for extended lengths of time, and it's all because we've trained ourselves to pay attention in so short bursts. So our attention span is a lot less than it used to be, like say 10 years ago, 15 years ago. And it also just breeds this mindset of instant gratification. Here's another quote. It says, the tendency of technology is to divide, distract, and cause people to focus on self. So we have to be very careful. This technology is a beautiful thing, but we have to be very careful because it can distract us. It can keep us from being personal. And it can get us in this hole of feeling like we deserve this, or we need this right now. Like, so I know when I'm dealing with technology, if it doesn't work instantly, I'm mad because it's not what's happening now. So if our culture and our churches are so technology based, then we're just going to breed a culture of people who respect things now, and that's not always a good thing, especially when we should be patient. So I talked about the pros and cons, but then my conclusion, my last paragraph, was just, okay, so we looked at pros and cons, so what is the appropriate use of technology in our churches? And my conclusion was that any use of technology can be appropriate, but we must do it modestly. It's up to the leaders of the churches to discern what is best for their church, and then from there, lead in that. They need to be leading. Say if they're sending out information or sending out texts and stuff, they also need to be connecting with people personally. They don't need, us as leaders don't need to be slothful or lazy when it comes to technology and just let it do our jobs for us. We also need to be out there doing it personally and leading our congregations in that. So my conclusion, after looking at the pros and the cons of technology and then seeing how it is appropriate in ministry context and church context, is any of it is appropriate, but we must discern what, and we must be careful. One thing I said is technology is great to assist in ministry, but should never take the place of ministry. So we must be careful, and I find this to be the case in a lot of cases in different topics and cases in ministry, that it's not too much on this end, it's not too much on this end, but it's somewhere in the middle, and it's so hard to find a balance. But I believe in looking at the technology in the church and its appropriate use. It is about finding a balance of keeping it up, keeping updated, being modern and all this, but also not being so focused on that, and keeping what's important, and keeping the gospel and the church at the forefront of our minds. So technology is good, but we just must be very, very careful with how we use it. So that is it. Thank you.